This new Titan build gives you not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 instant free void melee abilities, causing enemies to be suppressed whilst you gain significant damage resistance while sprinting with an overshield on top, making life much easier and safer to sprint past tough adds in difficult activities. This build gives you fast void ability regeneration, but you'll be focusing on using your void melee ability for ad clearing and to use on tougher adds and champions to suppress them. Wizards and knights shouldn't be able to use their shield and all that annoying stuff, but I believe champions like barriers will still bring a barrier up. However, our void ability does seem to make them a little confused for a while, causing a delayed reaction. But guys, this is quite a fun build that you can use in all activities, but I'd recommend using this in easier ones. So as always, rate, comment, sub and share, and now let's void some ads. Now just briefly, as always, if you want to see more fun, crazy and unique builds like this, then see the playlist below to all those builds, as I do them every week. Now with this build, we will be chaining void abilities to cause some serious suppressing damage to enemies, making ads confused and delaying their ability usage like knights with shields and wizards poison and all that stuff. But this build is pretty good for ad clearing, and we will be using some of the new elemental well mods with this build setup as well. The main focus of this build is to gain good damage resistance whilst using void melee abilities. The way you'd use this build is first use your class ability, then kill an ad to spawn one void elemental well. Then picking up that well will give you charge of light twice, whilst giving you damage resistance for 10 seconds, and an overshield while sprinting with our exotic equipped. Then you'll use weapons that have perks that can generate ability energy to help get your class ability quicker, in which you'll then just repeat the process once more, giving you a total of 4 stacks of charge of light, then just go on a melee killing spree. You can change a few things with this build, and I'll state those as we go along, because there is quite a few things you can do with this build to make it pretty insane. Now I know you can use exotics to increase melee damage, builds that give you infinite melee abilities and so on, but I've already covered a lot of those, and like all my builds, I like to experiment and try different things that don't always use the same things everyone else would use. So starting with the loadout, we'll be using any energy weapon or kinetic that can generate ability energy, so go with weapon perks like Wellspring, but you can use Monte Carlo and just replace a few mods with the build to then instead use this to generate your melee energy, and you can use this against anti-barrier champions as well. But other good options are Traveler's Chosen for more ability energy regeneration, or Saros to regen health. The choice is up to you, but these are great options to use for the build's initial design. The heavy weapon is your choice, but your optimized loadout for endgame would be a kinetic weapon with a Wellspring perk that covers anti-barrier champions, an energy weapon that covers overload champions and match game shields, and of course an Anarchy for boss DPS and to cover unstoppable champions if needed. You'll then use your void abilities and subclass for ad clearing. Speaking of the subclass, we are going with bottom tree Void Sentinel, Code of the Aggressor, one that I don't think I've actually covered yet on this channel, but I have done the top and middle tree before, so this time we're going to check out the bottom one. So with this we'll gain Shield Bash, which suppresses targets with grenade kills recharging our grenade energy, and we get reduced super cooldown when surrounded by enemies, which will also happen quite often as we are a melee ability ad clearing build. For the exotic today, we're using a Mark 44 standard sides for safer shoulder charge abilities, more on this soon, but something that never gets used, so we are going to make it usable for those who want to have a change from the current meta builds. So for the helmet mods, we're using Reaping Wellmaker to generate void elemental wells when getting a kill with our weapon after using a class ability, with Ashes to Assets for bonus super energy on grenade kills, and Dynamo for reduced ability cooldown when using our class near enemies. For the gauntlets, we're using Elemental Charge to become Charge Light when picking up elemental wells, which we'll get twice because they will be void wells. Then we also have our champion mods for the activity you're going into, but if you're in casual activities you can replace these with impulse recycler mods for extra faster grenades. Moving into the chest, we're using Supercharge so that we can store up to 5 total fully charged melee abilities. Now you can switch this out if you want to use another Charge Light mod that helps benefit you, but you only get 1 melee per class ability being placed instead of 2. This will make sense shortly, but with that mod we have some damage resistant mods to help us stay alive more, as the build is focused on survival as well as our abilities. Now for the legs, we are using the Mark 44 standard sides, which grants an overshield when sprinting at full health with our charged melee ability, which requires the use of bottom tree, and hits with these abilities recharges half of our melee energy, but we're using a heavy handed mod which also gives us half of our melee energy when using our ability, consuming 1 stack of charge of light, light, so every time we use our melee ability, we're always going to get it straight back, as long as you are charged with light. And with this we have an arc mod slotted in to gain a secondary perk for pretty much infinite ammo if you use it right, so maybe a shotgun and SMG would be ideal with this build. But as I mentioned earlier, you can use other charge light mods to pair with this build, such as the mod that grants extra damage resistance when sprinting and generating an orb for your team when using your melee ability. I think that is called Striking Light and it's in the arc slot, so maybe that is a good extra mod to use with this build. But for the class we are running the new Elemental Void Well mod, where picking up those wells will reduce the damage we take from enemies for 10 seconds, which is a nice bonus for us, and alongside this we have our ability cooldown mod for our class, and then the Unstoppable mod to stop them in harder activities. But you can switch this out to more cooldown mods if you want, but I don't feel like it's really needed, and this saves you using 7 energy on an unstoppable GL. Lastly, for your stats, you want to max out resilience and recovery, as our build is focused in those areas. Now this build isn't the best Titan build in the game, but it's one of the best fun void ability builds to use, which again you can use in all activities, but it will perform a lot better in easier ones, because no melee and ability build can make you a god, unless of course you are a Titan Arc melee build and want to insta-kill champions in one punch. But that's a topic for another video, which I've already made, and you can check those videos out in a playlist, which is what you guys should do next. It's linked below. But that is all for this one. Let me know what you think of this build, what your favourite build is for the Titans Void subclass. Leave a rating, subscribe and share for more, and guys, I'll see you this weekend for the next one. It may be poisonous. We'll see. Stay tuned.